folks, Ariel over here, where today we are canning cranberry juice. So this is not a big batch, so I've just warmed up my jars by putting them in my steam bath canner and, bringing that to a boil. So these are just cool enough to touch. And if you have more questions about steam bath canning, pretty much you can do anything with a steam bath canner that you can water bath can. It is not equivalent to a pressure canner. So you can look up any of my many other videos on this topic, including the one called Canning Questions, I think, goes over that. So what I've got here are fresh, raw, whole cranberries, and this is about the only time of year in my area anyway where you can buy these, and we are going to make cranberry juice. So what I'm doing here is filling each jar about half full. This is basically going to be making the same kind of juice as we did with service berries in the summer, and you can do it with grapes and so on. And it's very easy and simple. So get these all filled halfway full. And then we'll show you what we're doing next. Okay, so that was, be sure I'm telling you the right thing. I think these were 2-pound bags. Somewhere it's got to say. Yes. So that was 4 pounds of cranberries. This is going to make a pretty strong batch of juice. I see a lot of people doing this with, a little less cranberry, but I like it pretty powerful. So this is going to be much like what you would get from buying like a cranberry juice cocktail. It's not going to be quite as powerful as if you bought straight cranberry juice, which you'd make by cooking down and crushing the cranberries themselves. That will be a little more powerful. It's also a lot more work. So that's not what we're doing. Now I've read, cranberries of course are fairly tart, that if you don't have some sweetener in there, the juice just doesn't really, the flavor doesn't draw out of the cranberries so well. So most recipes call for some amount of sugar. What I'm going to do is use our honey instead. So this is not going to be an exact measurement because of the way honey works, but I'm going to do about 2 spoonfuls, and it's going to be a little less than that because a lot of honey sticks to the spoon of honey into each of these jars. So it's going to make it just slightly sweet. This is still going to come out pretty tart because cranberries are so tart. But what this does not have, of course, is any high fructose corn syrup, artificial flavorants, all the other things that's normally in cranberry juice if you buy it, something like that at a grocery store, unless you're getting the very most expensive brands. And this is the time of year when often after something like the Thanksgiving holiday, you can buy cranberries relatively cheaply. Our grocery store did not have any nearly as inexpensively as I had hoped to find, but still this is going to cost me about a $1 per jar for this juice. And if you buy real cranberry juice at the store, you probably know it's usually a lot more than that. Now of course the honey would cost something, if this is our honey, so that is not a cost that I particularly need to exactly count. You certainly could do this with sugar. Every other recipe I've seen has actually called for sugar. But anyway, cranberries of course are super nutritious fruit. It makes a wonderful juice to drink along with something like that homebrewed ginger ale. It makes it just a little sparkly and sweet. Or you could drink it just by itself. But that is one of the ways we really enjoy it. Now, when this is totally done and you're going to drink it, I got a bunch of questions about, on the service berry juice canning video, what do you do with the berries themselves? At that point, they're relatively flavorless because you've leached most of their flavor into the water that we're about to put in here. So you could eat them. They're not particularly appetizing. You could put them in baked goods or something like that if you wanted. You could have them on your cereal if you eat that kind of thing for breakfast or something like that. What we actually do most of the time is give the little fruits themselves to the chickens because they love them. And we've already extracted the majority of the flavor we're looking for into the juice. So that is just cranberries and honey. Now we're going to add hot water. Found it's useful to be somewhat sure your honey jar edge is clean and it will glue itself closed for the next time you want to open it. So I've got that in there. And in the meantime, I've brought this pot of water to a boil. And now the jars were hot. They're cooling slightly, but they were totally scalding hot. And we are going to, that water is boiling. You can probably see the steam coming off of it. So we're going to turn that off. In the meantime, my canner here is pretty warm already because I've used it to heat the jars, but I'm gonna be sure that is back up to being fully hot. And we're just going to ladle hot water right over top of these cranberries and bring this just up to just below the neck of the jar, right there at the bottom of the threads. And I've done this before. You can kind of hear often if your water is really boiling when you pour it in here, the cranberries themselves start to kind of pop and hiss as the hot liquid cooks them. So I'll show you something that's a neat little trick here in a minute, but just going to fill these all up. And anyway, so yeah, when you drink this juice, you could certainly drink the berries. I usually just strain them off by simply pouring the juice out into a glass through a little strainer like that you can set over the mouth of it, which seems to work quite nicely. So if you enjoy cranberry juice at all, I think you might really like making something like this yourself. And as you can see, doing juices this way is super simple. Now the water in the bottom there doesn't look very colorful right now. It looks pretty clear. It's going to look a lot more colorful when they come out of the canner, and then it will continue to get stronger over time. So you wouldn't want to drink this juice even after canning it. You wouldn't want to drink it, today or tomorrow. I just heard a cranberry pop. It will be much stronger flavor if you let it sit on the shelf for several weeks for the honey or sugar and water to really pull the flavor out of the cranberries. So that's something to be aware of. Don't make it today if you are wanting it for tomorrow. But we will just enjoy this later on in the winter, which is a wonderful thing. Pour some hot water in there over a honey spoon, and it ought to dissolve all the honey off it pretty well. Our cranberry is just a beautiful, beautiful fruit. I love their intense ruby color. I think they are a very lovely thing. Let's see, that pot might be getting low enough that I can just pour from it. There, our honey's all dissolved off the spoon, so we didn't waste any of that. Perfect. Now, what I want you to see, if the camera will show this, is, say this first jar that I filled, I had poured the water right up to here, but as the cranberries have been popping and releasing some of the air bubbles that are stored inside the cranberry themselves, you see how my water has sunk somewhat there. So usually after I fill them all the first time, then I let this just, Doesn't usually have to sit much more, but I'll go back and top off just a little more water to bring it up to kind of right at the neck there. And a couple cranberries will try to pop out and float up, but that hasn't seemed to be a problem. They pop further in the canning process and kind of all settle. So now we've got our lids soaking in hot water there, just so they're nice and warm and the rubber is soft. And I'm using just a little water and my fingertip to both be sure there's nothing on the rim, and to check each jar rim to be sure it hasn't gotten chipped or cracked or anything that would prevent it from sealing. And then seat the lids right on top. Again, this is all kind of the same basic thing as how you would can anything. You'll notice that the liquid in here right now is a little bit gold colored. That is from the honey. If you were using sugar, it would probably look more clear right now. It's going to look very pinky red when it comes out of the canner here in a minute. And then we put the rings on, just finger tight, no need to crank on there. All they're doing is holding that lid in place so it can't, you know, slide around like that until the lid seals itself down. So that's all the ring is doing. And I'm going to drop these in the canner and can them for, at my elevation, 35 minutes. If you're down at sea level, you should be able to do 25. So, open the canner here. Always open steamy things away from yourself so you don't steam scald yourself. Set all of our beautiful jars in here. Pop the lid back on, and we'll start the timer as soon as there's steam coming out one hole or the other. You can see this one here, there's an identical hole on the other side, and that's when we start the count from. Or if you're doing this in a water bath canner, it'd be whenever it comes to a boil, I think. I haven't even used a water bath canner in so many years. However you normally time a water bath canner. So we're just going to give that a minute and check in on that. Meanwhile, outside it's a beautiful snowy day where the sun just broke through the clouds, shining over the orchard there for the first time all day. It's been snowing steadily, and that is the first sunshine I've seen. Okay, you can see the steam coming out of the canner there. So we're going to set the timer for 35 minutes and turn this down a little because you just want it to keep steaming. It doesn't have to be like raging like that. And then we'll check back. Okay, timer just went off. These are done. I'm going to shut that down. Yes, it's getting really dark. The sun sets here at about 4 in the afternoon these days. Actually, it's probably closer to 3:30. So, there is what our cranberry juice looks like. Actually, suck a little of that moisture out of the house for a second. You can see how the pink juice is starting to come out of the cranberries. You can kind of see a line where it's down to there. That will continue to expand as these sit here and cool off now. Then we just wait a bunch of weeks with them sitting on the pantry shelf and enjoy. Aren't they just beautiful to look at? I think this is so pretty.
We hope you enjoyed it.
Come back next time for more adventures.
Thanks for watching.